Okay, here's a POV from the other side of the table. Imagine walking into the classroom for the very first time, heart pounding like it is right now standing here, not entirely sure if I'm supposed to be the teacher or one of the students. Well, that was me. My first time in the classroom, grade 7 math. I walk in, introduce myself, and there's this one particular student who catches my eye immediately. It was summer. He was wearing a beanie and a sweater, leaning back in his chair, like he'd already decided how this was going to go. And catching me off guard, he asked, "So ma'am, how many PhDs do you have?" PhDs, plural. I looked at him, laughed a little and said, "Sorry to disappoint, I just have an engineering degree." He nodded, and slowly the conversation shifted. Now, somewhere in that exchange, without either of us realizing it, something important had already taken place. Because I was not supposed to laugh. I was supposed to have the answers. I was the teacher, he was the student. But in that moment, he was the one with the questions, and I was the one figuring out what it really meant to be the teacher. I had a degree, 9 years ahead of me, and had absolutely no idea yet that the most important thing that I'd learned in that classroom will not just be about learning to teach math, but also this. The gap between what school prepares us for and what life actually asks of us. Has anyone in this room ever felt that gap? Not in the words, but in that feeling. The moment when you realize, nobody taught me this. Now let's go back a little further into my story, my grade 10 valedictory. My name was called for an award, Most Obedient Student. The same year, I was failing math, repeatedly. Most obedient student, but couldn't solve for x. I carried both versions of me into the life I was told to follow. Study hard, get good marks, get a good job. It's the mantra for a successful life. To me, it was clean, simple, and linear. But nobody mentioned that linear paths have a way of making you feel suffocated when you're actually on them. But I followed it faithfully anyway. And when it all ended, I was lost. Not because I had done anything wrong, but because for years I had stayed on a path obediently without ever stopping to ask, is this actually mine? I wanted to be a TV host, an anchor. Instead, I signed up for a teaching job. You know why? To improve my communication skills. Who thinks like that? Me. But something shifted when I stepped into those classrooms. I looked at my students, bold, unfiltered, sharp, never short of questions, and realized something. This matters. They matter. And so, I stopped following a path and started creating one. Over time, I've realized something and I've understood something. And coming from a math and physics teacher, I want you to stay with me on this. When you sit with a problem that makes no sense and don't walk away, something will finally click. Your brain isn't just storing an answer, it's physically rewiring itself. Like the previous speaker said, neuroscience. What it means is this. When you push through something difficult, your brain isn't just solving the problem. You're building the mind that will face the next one. And that mind, not your grade, not your marks, is going to walk out of school with you and is going to walk out of school with us. Into every relationship, every failure, every moment life throws at you that your syllabus never covered. And trust me, Life will. Early, often, and without any warning. Can you hold a conversation that isn't going your way? Can you sit across someone who looks at the world completely differently from you and still find a way forward? The first time I had to hold a difficult conversation with my colleague, I froze. I didn't know what to do. I stepped back and I told myself, not my cup of tea. And then this question hit me. Why isn't school teaching this? Why did my school not teach me this? See, we prepare students brilliantly for careers, but are we preparing them for life? Your score will open the door, but your character, built over time, in moments nobody is seeing you, is what determines what happens once you're inside that door. Which brings me back to obedience, because I spent years confusing it with discipline. They're not the same. I was a slow learner at that time. Real discipline is built in moments nobody grades. The moment when you choose to redo a problem, not because someone asks you to, but because it bothers you, you didn't understand it. The moment you choose honesty over hiding behind a safer answer. The moment you choose to own something, even when walking away would have cost you nothing. Those moments. They are the moments when obedience ends and character begins. The version of me who won the most obedient award is not the one I'm proud of. The one I'm most proud of is the one who stopped performing the right behavior and started building it. Now let me ask you all a question, and I want you to be honest with it. How many of us have said just this once and meant it more than once? You don't have to answer me. You know the answer by yourself. So, and here's something I want to tell all of us in this room. We know things have to change. Things need to change. We feel it. But here is the thought that quietly stops us. What can I do? I'm just one person, just a student. I'm just a teacher. One ordinary person in a very large, very complicated world. And so, we stop. And we start waiting for someone. The right leader, the right moment. Someone with more power to sort it out for us. And while we are waiting, we are rehearsing the same smallness, the same patterns, the same shortcuts. You know, the most, I wouldn't say difficult, dangerous. The most dangerous thing is not a broken system. The most dangerous thing is ordinary people thinking that they are too small to matter. Here's what I now know. The future is not a distant event. It is not something that starts after your boards, after your college, or after life somehow sorts itself out. It is being rehearsed every single day. It is being rehearsed right now by us in this room. And what we rehearse long enough becomes who we are. And who we are becomes what the world will look like next. So what kind of future are we rehearsing right now? The one where we think for ourselves instead of just following along? The one where we look at a person next to us? The one where we treat the person next to us as a competition or someone who we are building alongside with? Or the one where we start taking responsibility instead of waiting for someone else to do it first? 15 years ago, a 14-year-old student stood in a morning school assembly with a microphone in hand, saying a quote she chose herself because it sounded powerful and it made her feel wise. Education is the most powerful weapon you can use to change the world. She had no idea that it'll take her 15 years to understand the depth of it. That it'll take her a classroom, 9 years of students who surprised her, challenged her, changed her, and that one kid in a beanie who asked her how many PhDs she had and reminded her on the very first day that classrooms change teachers too. The weapon was not just knowledge. The weapon was the person that knowledge built. And standing here, I want to say something I wish someone told me when I was sitting exactly where you are. You do not have to wait until you grow up or to be older for this to matter. The choices you make now is already defining who you will become. You're not just preparing for your future, you are building one. And the place where your choices meet your character, where your courage meets your question, where who you are meets who you're becoming, is where it all connects. And one day, I hope, when you look back from your POV on the other side, I hope you're proud of the person you're becoming, and I hope you're proud of what you have rehearsed. Thank you.